You see, we are just surprised sometimes that why there are why anecdotal records are required. You see, with so many required assessment processes, like PTs are there, half yearlies are there, annual examinations, class tests, assessment on homework also. So it is understandable why the word itself may bring up negative feeling for the teachers. But the thing is that this is very different type of assessment, and how you can utilize them to support your reflection of and planning, that is very important. So high stakes summative assessments use are used to gauge children's learning against a standard on the benchmark. Like for example, we say 30%, that is must to pass any exam, any test, which means out of 20, you have to have 7 marks. But in this, there are no marks. There is only grading and suggestions from the teacher as to what is required. Observations are also not conclusive. You cannot pinpoint a particular observation with particular word or adjective. So here they are used to gauge the students' learning process. There they are often give they are or generally given at the end of the year or end of the term or end of a specific period. But over here, the anecdotal records, they can be rather made any time of the year, any time of the day, any time of the any period of the day. Okay. Now, so the formative assessments are ongoing process, and they tend to be based on the teacher's intentional observation. That is formative. Summative, जो हम end of the year or end of the term करते हैं. Formative, which are ongoing, and they tend to be based on the teacher's intentional observations during the specific learning experiences. They say and find that formative assessments are most useful when planning learning experience, activities, environments, culture. So, which means that the students are able to perform while they engage in real life tasks such as block building, retelling a story, or climbing on a playground. A structure provide a wealth of information. How do they climb? What are the different tools they utilize? Which means each strategy in this presentation will give you to develop a system for taking useful notes. For example, in the everyday learning. Now, definitions. What are the different definitions? Now, an anecdotal record is a simple statement of an incident deemed by the observer to be significant with respect to a given pupil. Another one is it may be defined as on the spot description of some incident, episode, or occurrence that is observed and recorded as being a possible significance. When these reports are gathered together, they are known as anecdotal report. Similarly, another one is the anecdotal record consists of objective descriptions of the pupil's behavior in a particular environment. An interpretation of the behavior, मैं आपको a number of example will be there. This is basically an interpretation of the behavior by the observer, writing the description and recommendation for further action based on the incident and interpretation. So these are all the definitions. What exactly is a- anecdotal record? You see, anecdotal records are concise, objective narratives about the incident or person. What a child can do and his or her achievement, as opposed to what he or she cannot do, which means anecdotal records have to be always positive statements. It is a record of some significant episode happening in the life of student that sheds light on the conduct, their thinking, their skills, their capacities, and revealing basically the significant features and characteristics about their personality. Now, teacher generated anecdotal records provide an insider's perspective of the child's educational experience, which means they have to be factual rather than fictitious. जो आपने देखा है, you have to write that only. Fictitious नहीं चलेगा. What are the characteristics? You see, the basic characteristics of anecdotal records are date, where it happened, place, where it happened, situations, under what circumstances it happened. Date, obviously, you know the date, but place, whether in the art room, whether in the laboratory, where in the playground, everything will be written. I will give you the formats also. Send you by mail also, and over here also, two, three, I will show you. You see, it describes the action of the individual, the reactions of other people involved, and the responses of former to these reactions. How do I react in a particular situation, particular class? And then, what is the impact of my reaction on other people? As a student, I am talking about. So it states new mood cues, postures, gestures, voice quality, facial expressions, eyes expressions. They serve cue to help understand how the individual felt, but it does not provide interpretation of his feelings, but only cues. He was happy, but why he was happy? No cue. Beyond that, nothing is provided. Okay. Now next is uses. What are the uses of anecdotal records? It is generally useful for guidance of teachers और गाइडेंस टीचर्स जो कि काउंसलिंग के होते हैं टीचर्स उनके लिए भी एज टू द प्रेजेंट डायनामिक पिक्चर अबाउट द pupil in different situations. How does he react? It is used by the teacher to know and understand the pupil on the basis of description of happening of the student's life. What happens? How it happens? What was the reaction of the student in those circumstances? And certainly then to record the and understand the personality patterns of the student, which means it enables teachers to study and understand the adjustment patterns of the students. He is angry, two students are fighting, but as soon as the teacher comes in, then they sit quiet. They just change their pattern of behavior. So anecdotal record is helpful for teachers in assisting the students for solving their problems and difficulties. Next one is Again, the uses are there. The anecdotal record is a better means of data collection, which is helpful to improve relationship within the teachers and their own peers. जो स्टूडेंट्स के दूसरे स्टूडेंट के साथ रिलेशन होते हैं, to improve that also, to improve relationship with the teachers also, and it is helpful for the students to get rid of mental tension, anxieties, overwhelming, and so on. अगर रिकॉर्ड आपके सामने होगा, then you will be able to help the child accordingly. So it is useful to know the pattern also of about how the child understands, how the child reacts, what is the pattern, why he becomes angry sometimes, and so on. The anecdotes or anecdotal records, they are useful to improve teaching standards. After knowing comment of the students through anecdotal technique, so you can improve upon your teaching standards also. You see, what are the advantages? They provide observational narratives, that is records of significant incidents in the child's life. I'll give you example. अभी घबराने की जरूरत नहीं है. There are a number of examples which will be coming up our way. Then they provide wealth of information across different developmental areas, not only intellect, but their intelligence, their understanding of knowledge, their understanding of the content, and so on. Now, facilitate noticing the child's social emotional development, choices, interests, relationships, number of things you can understand by looking at these anecdotal records. They identify the strength and weaknesses and assess progress over time. Over a period of time, you will be able to understand what exactly is this. A summary of these records is valuable information because for forwarding a pupil's record when he is transferred from one class to another class, promoted, which means, or transferred from one school to another. The new school will certainly be asking you the anecdotal records दे दीजिए सर इसका. अगर आपके पास नहीं होगा, then you will be cutting a sorry figure. But if you have prepared and kept them well maintained, anytime anybody asks, and you can put across. Here it is. They motivate teachers to use the records, and they provide data for learners to use in self-appraisal. यही से anecdotal records, when you present to the student, they will be able to go through them and improve upon their self, their behavior also, their mental status also, and intelligence. Now, what are the different types of anecdotal records? There are four types. The first one is they are recorded from time to time. That is simple pupils' behavior. Type 1. Type 2 may behavior plus comment or interpretation of their behavior. Why he reacted? Why he reacted so? Type 2. Behavior plus comment or interpretation. Type 3 is behavior plus comments plus suggested treatment. If he gets angry, what do you recommend? And the fourth one is one another element is added, First is behavior, second is comments, third is suggestion, what you suggest, and the fourth one is treatment of the student. देखिए इसके आगे आगे क्या होता है. लिमिटेशंस होती हैं लेकिन इसकी. What are the limitations? If their proper care is not taken by the teacher in the context of data collection, then they are of no use, no value. कैसे ऑब्जर्व करना है? आई विल गिव यू दोज एग्जांपल्स आल्सो. They are of little use if objective in the data collection is not followed and maintained. It is not just only collection, it is maintaining of that data also. I'll give you examples. Individual data कैसे collect करना है, and then whole class, you how you have to keep the record of whole class. In some cases, anecdotal records are confined to exceptional students, as a result of which the average students are generally neglected. Of course, in anecdotal records, you cannot neglect a single child, whether he is brilliant, whether he is slow learner, whether he is naughty, whatsoever kind of the child is. It is a technique of data collection for the purpose of guidance services. And the last one is the anecdotal records is of no use if the incident and its description are not properly recorded. This is most important. कैसे record करना है? I'll give you the example also. You see, another limitations are the anecdotal records. Sometimes, in some cases, they invite disappointment or tensions, which are not desirable on the part of teachers. It is not possible in the part of a teacher to detect an observable incident as because the incident may be important and memorable for the student but may not be treated in case of a teacher. It may be important for the purpose of when as far as a student is concerned. His reaction to a particular situation, that is that might be important for the student, but a teacher may not find it useful. Sometimes students become more sentimental and reactive and tensional because they do not respond or write or answer correctly, due to which the anecdotal record may not bear the weightage so far as its use and importance is concerned. That may not be useful because they are not recorded properly. Proper words are not utilized. Now, content of the anecdotal records, they must be dated. मैं अभी आपको फॉर्मेट देता हूँ थोड़ी देर में. What exactly we do mean by the format. अभी थोड़ा सा एग्जाम्पल इसमें दूंगा and then I will send you the format by mail. It should be properly dated, include the name of the student being observed. They should specify students' strength and positive traits. The ABC format will be best. ABC means antecedents. Why this thing happened? What is the prelude to this particular behavior? Then next is behavior, B for behavior. And third is consequence of behavior or context of incident. Why this thing happened. They can include teachers' comments, plan of action, recommendation, and they can summarize or identified learning patterns. Say for example, learning style. Learning pattern क्या है? कि a child can learn best when he is in isolation, solitary learner, group learner, auditory learner, visual learner, kinesthetic learner, so on and so forth. A number of types of learners are there, and they are learning patterns. How to write. Now, this is the most important parts. The most important parts are now there. Educators basically, typically, they watch a child when he engage in a specific activity or event and write down the situation as things happen or as soon as happens. Generally, what I used to do is, as a teacher, my staff also used to do the same thing is, they used to keep a small pad in their pocket all 8 hours of the schooling. As and when they watch anybody, they will just ask, which, what is your name and which class you are in. That's all. डेट वगैरह सब वो लिख लेंगे, लोकेशन भी लिख लेंगे, circumstances भी लिख लेंगे, and what they observe that will also be written. Along with this, they have to write description of facial expressions, actions, responses, behavior, gestures. What are all the things? I'll give you example. How to write में अभी हमारा ये आता देखिए. Always include a name, age of the child, date, time, setting, curriculum area or domain, and an objective description. Describe the child's behavior, not what you think of the behavior. Never write what do you think of the behavior. Just over there, you write what was the behavior. Use details of such behavior or actions. Even if a student speaks something, write that. Then, next is being positive and objective and using descriptive language are also important things to keep in mind when writing your anecdotal records. So note down the exact words used in the conversation by the parties involved. And over here, do not summarize behavior or what you are observing. As I have told you earlier also, do not come to the conclusion. Just summarize. Just write what you observe. अभी मैं आपको just a few examples I will give and then we will move further. How to write? I have given you. Abhi, just a few minutes ago, I told you. As soon as possible, keep a pocket diary or a sticky note in your pocket, which is very handy to jot down brief notes to remind you of the incident. Then, the longer you wait, and the matter becomes more subjective, vague, and observation will become vague, will be useless if you wait for a longer time. So, what generally you used to do is write down then and there only, wherever you are, whichever the period you are in, whichever the place you are in, whomsoever you are observing, write it down. And as the bell rings for the next period, go to the staff room, take out that anecdotal diary of that particular class, open the page, and write down whatsoever you have observed. Use specific language. Childcare dot app hack technology to log observations. Try to use this particular app. Use a specific language. Do not use vague words, irrelevant words, but use a specific language as to what child said, did, including what he did, including his facial expressions and tone of voice. Avoid interpretation of the child's behavior. That means using those words that describe how the child is feeling and why he is feeling. ये why जो है, this is very important. This should not be used. Now I am coming to the example. See here. Observation of Mohita. When? Wednesday, 14th September 2022. Fourth lesson, English language. Classroom and free choice time. This is classroom and free time. Now, what? Curriculum area or domains? Social emotional communication, social emotional language, social emotional learning. These are the areas which were observed. What? Mohita approached Ashok and Ruhi on the reading table. With a smile on her face, Mohita asked Ashok, "Do you want to look at pictures with me?" Ashok replied, "I am already looking at a picture with Ruhi." So Mohita said, "Okay," as she was frowning while playing with her fingers. Ruhi said, "Mohita, come and look at the picture with us." Then Mohita joined them with a smile on his face. So that was then with Mohita. Over here, the teacher has written frowning. So this was his observation of Mohita, how she was feeling. Next example is observation of Ganesh. When Tuesday, 20th of September 22, sixth lesson, sixth lesson, play with toys. That is means of transport they were studying, and they started playing with those toys. Now, where? In the room, Ganesh room. And who all were there? Ganesh and Dinesh. Curriculum area or domain, social emotional learning. What he observed, Ganesh was seated on the floor at playground playing with his fireman truck, who was approached by Dinesh, who stood there for 6 minutes watching Ganesh play with his truck without saying anything. He didn't look up to acknowledge his presence even until Dinesh said, "Ganesh, can I join you?" Ganesh shrugged, and Dinesh sat next to him and played with his own truck. Now you see over here, no other observation suggestive, just only observation. I'll give you few time for writing. I have given to you time of writing. What should be the time? While in class, teachers can quickly write down any observation or on sticky note and stick them in the specific student's record. After class, if the time permits, teacher can refer to their sticky notes and transfer the observation to formatted record. Alternatively, the notes can be made on a notebook, pocket diary, or anything that can be easily handled by the teacher. Clear? I'll give you some other things rather than the areas of observation. Yeah, anecdotal record forms. That is, this is format. Now, see over here, I have given you the record, the format: name, class, section, date when you observed him, and time. Time or even period also you can write over here, which means third period, seventh period, like that. Observer, your own name. Setting, playground, laboratory, music room, art room, and so on. Description, I have just now given you example. What was your observation? Now see over here an example. Jaya Sharma, class 2nd B, date 4th June 2022, 2022, time, lesson is physical education, lesson is physical education, and then observation is Mr. Navjot Singh. Setting क्या है? Jaya plays alone in the water table under the tree in the corner of a front garden of the school during the outdoor free play. Now what is being observed? Observation ये है कि Jaya is playing with a piece of a paper boat at the water table under the shade of a tree. She slowly pushes the boat down and looks at the drops of water gradually filling it. She watches the boat sinking, whispering to herself, "Come up now, come up now." Since the observation has been made, it can be noted down. She lifts her up, collects some small rocks and barks, chips from the base of the tree, fill it in the boat, and then here you go. And again, dips it. So what happens? She saw that the rocks, small rocks, they fell down from the boat and sank into the water. Whereas the whereas the bark chips, she puts them down under the water, but every time they came up floating. So conclusion क्या है? This Jaya is curious about the concept of floating and sinking. So this is the conclusion. And generally, if you observe this particular pattern of learning over a number of observations, you can write Jaya is a curious child. As simple as that. Next one is, you see, concise record a register. Mohit Sharma. First page will include, will have the index. Mohit 1 to 6, Rohit 7 to 13, Alpana 14 to 20, and so on and so on. First page. Now, inside you open page number one, right over there, Mohit Sharma, and prepare this format. Date and time, behavior or domain, context, conclusion, and then suggestion. This will be the format. Similarly, I'll give you another example. Pooja Singh, 7 to 12, date and time, behavior or domain, then context, then conclusion, and then suggestion or recommendations. So, this is the format you will be keeping in the register, AR register, anecdotal record register. Now, with this, my presentation is over. I will stop sharing. And now, if you have got a few questions, one or two, then certainly I will treat them up. You can unmute yourself and then give it to me. There are 24 people, but in the chat box, I can see only 14. So please, I write over here. I ask each one of you to write P in the chat box. It will come to me. Yes, Aisha ji, thank you. Subha ji, thank you. You just write P in the chat box. If you have got any questions, you can ask me just now. Yes, Nimita Krishna, yes, P. Just write P for the purpose of marking attendance. Please write P in the chat box. That's great. All right. If you don't have any questions, then अगर हैं आपके पास, you can write it in the paid group where you can write. Not everybody can write because there are only those members who are paid members who have paid the fees for this webinar. I just forgot to show you the last screen. Here it is. This is a declaration about my next webinar. 7th of December, stress management for teachers. 12th December, a report card. Obviously, 18th will be homework. Then 24th, discipline without yelling, begging, or hitting. I'll stop sharing now. And if you don't have any questions, then certainly I will end it up here. Today's webinar is over here itself, and I will stop it here now. All right, ladies and gentlemen, have a wholesome supper and have a good sleep. Tomorrow is Sunday, and you can get up anytime. हालांकि आदत तो 6 दिन की पड़ी हुई है आप लोगों को to get out of bed by 5 o'clock. But still, take your time, थोड़ा 1 घंटे लेट उठ जाइएगा. ऑल राइट. थैंक यू आयशा जी, थैंक यू वेरी मच. आई एंड इट हियर.